This podcast is brought to you by Enrollment Resources, Innovations in Enrollment Management. Learn more at enrollmentresources.com.
Okay, let's get started. So welcome everybody. Greg Meiklejohn here with Enrollment Resources, and I'm here with Shane Sparks and friends, and we're going to explain to you why Google, and by extension folks like Facebook, are not our friends in the school industry, and what we can do to keep wide open eyes about this insidious trend. So that's our topic for today, and we're happy to take your questions at the end of our presentation. You can either do that by submitting questions via GoToWebinar, or you can submit questions by merely at the end pressing *6 on your phone and then joining the conversation that way, just via the phone. So let's get started. First of all, Shane, what I'd like to do is introduce Lee. And Lee is a senior manager executive with Career College Central. So welcome, Lee. I'd like you to just take a moment and talk a little bit about Career College Central.
Yeah, hey. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Greg. My name is Lee Doubleday, and I am the account executive at the Imagine America Foundation. For those of you who don't know the Imagine America Foundation, we were established in 1982 as a nonprofit organization specifically serving the career college community. This is focused on career college sector research through our annual fact book and financial aid assistance to enrolling career college students. In June of this year, IAF has become the publisher of Career College Central magazine and all related programs and services. Career College Central is the definitive voice of the career college sector, and with the readership now approaching 300,000 people, I hope all of you are currently receiving our magazine either printed or the digital version. If not, please just let me know. Send me your contact information at the end of the presentation. There is no subscription fee there at all. So I would like to make sure that you are receiving our information. We're pleased to partner with Enrollment Resources to offer this important webinar. Webinars have been an important part of CCC history and will continue to be that way. So look for more of us in the near future. To stay abreast of all what's going on with Career College Central and IAF activities, you can send me your contact information or like us on Facebook. Finally, we would urge you to take advantage of the information provided today. Plans are in place to have the recorded version of this webinar available on Enrollment Resources and Career College Central. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the webinar.
Great. Thanks, Lee. Thank you so much. And Shane, I understand that Lee is a distant relative of Abner Doubleday, the inventor of baseball.
That is right. He is my great uncle.
Well, there we go. So you must be a good ball player. And Shane, I'd like you to just say a few words about Enrollment Resources, just so that people understand that it's just some crazy people ranting on here. We have some chops in this area.
We do have some chops in this area. So Enrollment Resources, a big part of what we do is internet marketing services. We're essentially the internet marketing department for, about 40 school groups across the country, representing a little over 100 to 125 campuses, I think, at last count. So we're definitely in the trenches on this stuff. We're definitely held monthly to meeting lead goals and held accountable to the money we spend on behalf of clients. So it's a thing that we're constantly looking at, and we have a fantastic team in that department here in the company, toiling away to make sure we're kicking butt on the behalf of clients.
Cool. Okay. So without further ado, let's start to just dive in here.
Great. So, everyone can see the slides here on their screen now?
Jody, I'll have you just pop in my office. Oh, never mind. Here we go. Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to talk about budget-sucking tactics of Google. Dr. Evil, he made
Yeah, let me jump on this one. So this we shouldn't spend too much time on this, but this is meant to share that Google has a history of making changes to their platform. And their changes are almost always to benefit Google and almost always to the detriment of you by way of higher costs. And if you look at the last, 10 years or more, ever since we started doing paid search, year over year, there's almost always been an increase in cost per lead, cost per click, right? Which does not follow the trends of the sector and the competitive, like the competitive influencers.
So enhanced bidding and sugging. Tell us about that there, pal.
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, they introduced an enhanced bidding feature, which was basically a way to rig it to get Google to do the bidding on your behalf and to rapidly drive up costs in an auction. And we had done a webinar on it, and it was a kind of a button to click that was a very costly button to click. As part of that, they had undertaken a services outreach effort. So all of a sudden, there's lots of calls coming from Google reps to give you advice on how to run your campaign. We call it sugging, or the term for it is sugging, selling under the guise of. And so really, those service calls were designed to promote enhanced bidding, to get you to abrogate some of your management to them and the Google algorithm to drive up costs.
So if I can jump in, so it would not be sugging if a sales rep said, I'm going to offer you some free advice on this or that, and my long-term intention is to build a relationship so you buy some stuff from us. If it's transparent, it's not sugging, but if it's opaque and milky, then it is, hey?
Well, that's right. If their agenda is to generate more revenue. And the service calls were really promotional calls to partly undermine the relationships and the confidence of the people that were already running the campaigns for you. We identified it as a kind of kill the leader strategy, where they wanted to create more relevance, wedge between the people doing the work and the clients, in order to promote enhanced bidding and some of the other features they'd added to it at the time.
It's like the old boyfriend thing,
That's right.
Now, what about mobile?
Well, what they did is they had created, they'd made it more difficult to manage your campaigns separately in mobile and desktop, and they'd created a change into their interface that made it harder to create those as two separate campaigns. And again, their goal was to create complexity in this, create a need for them, and to create the complexity, which ultimately drives up costs. That was the end goal.
Okay, and so I guess then the extension of that is that by creating a modular kind of approach to all of this, it decreases. We're going to dive into this in some depth right away here, decreasing the ability to influence organic searches.
Well, that's it. So, Google doesn't make any money on organic search. So if somebody searches and finds you an organic listing, they don't make really any money on that. So all this is designed to create decrease the influence of SEO, or your ability to influence SEO, create more reliance on AdWords, at the same time make it harder and harder to do it effectively, to create the kind of slop and waste that increase cost per clicks, and cost per lead.
Now, it's interesting because, Google's mission statement is do no harm.
Yeah, do no evil, or don't be evil. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now, Shane, our Enrollment Resources, our mission statement is pursue the truth. And so to that end, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Because we're going to learn some things. We're going to pursue the truth around paid search and these massive media companies. And let's get at it. What's this, Shane?
So recently, end of January, beginning of February, Google made some changes to how the ads are displayed on the search results. And so that's what this screen is showing. And what they did was, instead of having ads on the right-hand side in this column, they've shrunk the amount of ads they have, and they show the top 4 ads right at the top of the page of the search results.
Interesting. So big deal. So what?
Well, exactly. So what? So they removed some text ads from the side. Big deal. They shrunk it from 4 to 3. There's 3 ads that are going to show up at the bottom. And basically, the net is they've shrunk it from a maximum of 11 ads to a maximum of 7 and crammed them at the top of the page.
Oh, so that is a big deal.
Well, potentially, yeah. So they also added this Google My Business listing. So what happens now if you include a geographic locator, in this Massage Schools Vancouver was the example, you got some ads from Massage Schools in Vancouver, you then have this Google My Business panel that has also the schools identified in that geographic region, which, it's cool in some ways, but here's the reason it's a big deal. They claim their motivation was to harmonize the desktop and the mobile experience, so meaning how it looks on your computer is the same as how it looks on your phone. But really, this guy's got nothing to do with this. This is all about monetization. And who they're trying to monetize are the advertisers, right? That is who they make their money off. And one of the ways they're monetizing you is by decreasing the amount of advertising opportunities from 11 down to 7, and really there's only the 4 at the top are the only ones that have any real value, right? What they've done is they've shrunk the supply in order to increase the demand. Does that make sense?
It does make it. It makes total sense. So what you're saying is that there's the Google is a Dutch auction, and as it goes down the list, the cost to bid is pennies on the dollar. So they're trying to take all that demand for those 11 search terms and stuff them into a competition for 4, creating an intense supply and demand issue, thus driving up the cost. Is that kind of it?
Yeah, that's it. And remember, they only got paid. Like if someone came on a Google search, and there used to be ads on the right-hand side here, if I was number 7 on that, meaning I was paying the least amount per click, and I clicked on that, Google's going to make the least amount of money, right?
Right.
And so by shrinking it down to now there's only 4, by nature of the decreased supply, people are going to have to be bidding more for a click. And it's, you bid for what you're willing to pay for a click, and if you're willing to bid enough and there's some other things that are in your favor, your ad shows up. If you're not, you're SOL. That's really Yep.
So you're SOL, and it looks like also, Shane, you're SOL regarding SEO. There's all of these gazillion of little SEO providers, and it looks like,
well, that's SEO. That's the other really fascinating thing about this change, right? Is that the search engine results, like the organic listings, have been pushed way down. And if in this screen you can see here, if you have a geographic, so if I'm typing, enrollment marketing companies in British Columbia, there's going to be a geographic little box here, this Google My Listing box, and what that's doing is it's pushing the organic listings, we call it below the fold, which is an old advertising or newspaper term, but it means not on your first screen, right? You're going to have to scroll down to see it. And so that's making those organic search results less relevant.
Right, because most people will not go scrolling down. Most people will just kind of look at what's in front of them, and like as far as this example goes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things to go and choose from. And then I guess on the second page it's even worse, right? Because like I heard the stat that only 5% of people go to the second page on searches. So it's even worse.
Yeah, so they're really trying to consolidate and maximize their revenue, right? And they're huge, and that's one of the ways they've got huge is they have a massive amount of leverage.
So all this SEO work that people have been doing may be greatly diminished now with basically how this has been reconfigured.
That's possible. We don't totally know yet. It's early days. Like this all changed. It was phased in, but basically the end of January, beginning of February was when it all started. And so we're, mid-April now. We've had really a month and a half of data.
So here's some stats that we've pulled, though, just in the last short time, hey?
Well, that's it. So this all happened, and of course it's a big topic, so we're watching it all very closely. So overall, here's been the impact. Cost per leads are up anywhere between 15 and 25% for most schools we work with. And we saw that spike really happen end of January, beginning of February. So it was an event. It wasn't a kind of ease into it situation. In our company, we have the conversion leader is kind of the lead marketer who manages the paid search and orchestrates the tactics to meet the client goals. So they're kind of our senior marketers. And they, of course, collaborate with each other all the time and look at trends and what's happening. What they saw collectively is that a large number of the accounts had significant spikes in kind of average position costs. And so what that means is in order to be fourth now, what's it cost us to be fourth in February versus January? And it costs more. And the effect of that has been it's shrunk lead flow to some degree, and we've certainly had to be much more proactive in making little bidding adjustments, which are eating up more time and more budget.
Now, also, what we don't know yet, but what we're assuming is that now Google has basically taken over that big chunk of space underneath those 4 paid searches, and then the yellowpages.com and Search Local and all those guys are going to get pushed below them, and then all the individual schools will get pushed below them yet again. And so with all these schools getting pushed down, we're making an assumption at this point that the numbers of eyeballs that make their way onto a website, the website traffic, is also going to go down. But it's early days.
Well, it certainly logically makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, empirically, what we can know right now, given it's only been a couple months, is what has the effect been? So we pulled some specific client case studies here just so we can get a cross section. So in this example one, and these are all schools that are spending a fair amount of money per month. So client one, 10% increase. From January to February, things went up 10%, jumped to 15% increase in cost per lead in March. So that's an immediate measurable thing. Second case study, we saw a 15 to 20% increase at the program keyword level. And this is kind of an important thing to talk about, which we're going to get to a little bit more later in detail. But like in a campaign, so if we're running an AdWords campaign for a school, you've got kind of 2 core components to it. You've got the brand term, right? Greg's school, Greg's Institute, right? And variations on that brand term. And then you've got all the program-related keywords. So, your variations on medical assisting, variations on pharmacy tech, variations on HVAC or whatever. A portion of people that search are searching for the brand term, right? They want to go to Greg's Institute. The bigger majority, or the majority of people, are searching more around program, right? Because they're thinking, I want to be an HVAC technician, or what's that mean? What's that like? And so they're going to search variations on that term. that's where this is really, really affecting competition, because most advertisers aren't really bidding on their competitors' brand names. Like, sometimes we do it. It's never had a very good ROI, so it hasn't really been worth it.
It's a dirty trick that some desperate people get into doing.
Well, that's it. It's a dirty trick. It feels good, like, as a screw you to your competitor, but like when we've really been objective about the result, it doesn't produce a lot of leads, and usually they don't convert very well anyway. So it hasn't been really a prudent strategy.
So here's some program-related cost changes.
Well, that's it. Here it is. On program-related keywords, 15, 20%, 25% increase overall. Like, that sucks. Imagine if your cost of running your business or running the marketing increased 25% basically overnight.
That does suck. And I would maintain that for planning purposes, folks should start to assume that as the Google local, what's it called? Google local, Google business?
Google My Business.
Google My Business starts to create more dominance, that will fill up to a greater degree, dominating that first page even more. And one can assume that not only will your cost per lead go up, but the traffic to the website will go down.
Yes. And so here, this is I don't want to belabor this. It's really just bad news to share, and, sorry to be the bearer of that. We looked at, this was from another client, that we looked at program specific. Again, they're a heavy advertiser in a large market, right? So there's lots of competition for eyeballs. And this has been the increased, March compared to previous average, just kind of a before and after. And virtually all but one program, there's been significant increases in cost per lead. Now, I want to kind of make a note here. The buck ultimately stops with me in our business on client performance of our work for clients. And I'll tell you, if the cost per lead was over $100 for the longest time, I would absolutely have a freak out because it just was unacceptable. And now we're just seeing it's that much harder to keep cost per leads under $100 in big markets for kind of commodity programs. It's just really, really tough.
Unless you're in a smaller market without many advertising competitions.
Well, that's it. So the ones who are doing okay in all of this, like if you're in a small market and there's less than 4 major advertisers, we live on a little island here. We've got a client up island. They don't have 4 competitors in their town, right? So it hasn't really affected them. And if you're advertising around your brand, it's not really affecting you because usually it's just not that competitive for those brand terms. But if you're in a major market, which most of us are, and there's more than 4 dominant competitors, man, you're in a fist fight.
So so now let's share some good news here, because part of leadership is squaring up to the problem and then going at it. And so here's an example on how to get at it.
Yes. So if you're in a major, over the years we've talked about differentiation. I don't know how many times. Like, it's just been a constant theme, right? So if you've got a strong brand, like if you're selling commodity programs, your life has gotten worse. If you're selling online programs and you are not clearly differentiated, your life's gotten worse. If you're a new advertiser to Adwords, right? If you're launching a new Adwords campaign because, I don't know, you let your agency own your campaign for years and years and you finally fired them and started up your own now, you waited too long, right?
Mm-hmm. So along that happens a lot, though. Agencies will use tactics to basically neuter the ownership of the campaign, and it's a valuable thing, having a well-humming, well-oiled paid search campaign.
Well, it is, and I'll tell you, we've been. Let's just jump back to this slide for a sec. we've been harping on this a lot for years now, right? Like, own your own assets. You need to own them because it does have value. And a campaign with a long history, like if you've got a multi-year history in advertising and AdWords, you get better placement than somebody who just launches a new campaign. And it's just key to own those assets, and it's an investment you've always had to make in kind of time and learning in order to build the thing up. But one, I guess, good piece of good news out of this is that if you do have that asset, your life's gotten a little bit better since this change, because I'll tell you, a new guy on the block's going to get his lunch handed to him.
Now, this my business stuff, Shane, this is essentially, now they've cleared these ads off on the right side, this is essentially like a landing page, right?
Yeah, so this is, okay, so, we've dwelled on the negative. This is actually good news. It's actually great news. So now what happens if somebody searches for your brand term, right? So they're searching, we used one of our friends, Federico, in the example here. Now, in all that empty space that was formerly unused or was formerly filled up with ads, now you get your Google My Business listing shows up in this big, beautiful, free ad. It has photos, it's got directions, your contact info, you've got reviews. It's great, right? This is a nice big ad. Mm-hmm. So that certainly represents an opportunity.
It's a big opportunity. Well, there's some, but like with anything, right? There's constraints.
Yes, yeah, there are some constraints on this. So it's kind of a little gift Google's given. The con to it is that really it's only your brand name only. So if they're searching for your brand, great. It's part of this Google My Business, which is really confusing to set up, or can be surprisingly confusing, which can create a situation where your listing only shows up with what's called a long tail keyword or a long tail location in it. So if you haven't set it up properly, you may have to type, your school institute plus the city and possibly the state in order for the thing to show up. Most people aren't going to type that in.
So it requires finesse to get it right.
It requires finesse to get it right. That's exactly it.
But once it's set up, it's golden for a long time.
Yes. Depending on your lens, reviews are playing a bigger part of it. So if you're well reviewed, that's a pro. If you got some negative reviews out there that have been dogging you, it's less good for you.
That's going to show up on My Business.
That's going to show up on My Business right here.
And I'm going to use a word with some forethought, but it's like herpes. Like, it's not going to go away, ever. And so you're going to have all this meanness about you up there forever.
Well, that's it, right?
That's harsh.
That's the new reality in all this. Like, really, all this stuff is all interconnected, right? Like, it's just, that's life now. If you could have, before you maybe one campaign does one thing, another one does another thing, another does another thing, it's not the deal now, right? It's pretty much connected. So, like, in this example, you can see our friends at Federico, they also have some other things good going on. So, the ads running, which, maybe they get a click for it around their brand term. It sucks you got to pay for the click, but it keeps the competitor from being there. They have their listing, their organic listing that has these expanded categories. So you see the services and the programs and all. So they get a big, massive, big fat piece of real estate right here. Plus, they get this big, beautiful piece of real estate in the Google My Business listing. Plus, they've got their other reviews here from other review sites. Now, for someone searching the brand, this is all a really compelling argument, right? Like they just are dominating this whole page.
As long as the reviews are not negative.
Well, that's it. So, these guys do an awesome job. They're an amazing school, and they're thusly rewarded for that.
So if the school is mediocre in its delivery and does a poor job in career services and job placement, they would be perhaps advised to try to minimize opportunities for people to look at reviews because they're going to get killed.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
You can't. So really there's only one thing you can do as a school going forward, and that is to have a world-class delivery of your offering. Because people confuse, I'm going to step in for half a second on this, people confuse marketing as a way to somehow magically fix your problems. But marketing is just a way to communicate the reality of how you are. I mean, you get some big ugly dude at a nightclub and he douses cologne all over him. That's marketing, right? But it just goes and accentuates that he's a big, ugly, smelly dude. And so, I've used the term polishing a turd, or the other term that David Ogilvy used when he was alive was nothing can kill a mediocre business like a fantastic marketing campaign. And folks, at the end of the day, and Shane, it's really all about getting back to having a world-class offering.
Well, gosh, it sure helps, and really the way the trade winds are blowing is that having that advantage and having the goodwill that comes with that, more and more is factoring into how you're perceived by these advertising platforms, and whether they'll even let you advertise in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just there's so much demand, they have so much leverage that all we can do is try to fold into what they want to try to even get eyeballs. That's the reality.
Now, there's new ecosystems out there now, such as Facebook, that has started to, become a player. And what we're seeing is that Facebook is taking a run at Google in the pay-per-click space.
Well, they are. Once Facebook went public, it was with two intentions: one, to better monetize their user base, and two, it was to try to compete head-to-head with Google, right? And so, and they're making inroads. Like, Greg, you've done some good research on this and around their monetization.
Yeah, folks, if you go and put something on your wall in your corporate Facebook page, I think it's 3% of the people who like you on that page will see what you've put down on your wall. That's like hardly anybody. And so Facebook have created an environment now if you need to get what you're writing down, it's basically a patina, much like Google. It's a patina for a paid search business model. And you have to use what's called Facebook boosting. You've probably heard of that, in order to get what's on your wall out to large numbers of people. Now, they have lots of cool ways to go and target. The best way we found is just friends of friends. And Ryan Emery in our office has done some amazing split testing in this area and has found a way to really monetize Facebook for schools. Mm-hmm. So I think we're maybe the first company to crack the code on that. So it's interesting.
It is, and it's promising. I put it in the promising category. It's not going to replace Google, though.
No.
It's at best a secondary tactic or tertiary tactic just to mitigate your exposure to one platform.
To use an analogy for the old people on the call, Google is the classified section, and Facebook is the editorial or the articles in the magazine. Every Facebook page, whether it's your own personal one or a corporate one, is a little magazine that you curate and you bring articles on, and it's content. And then ads get wrapped all around it by Google. And so, if you see an editorial ad in a magazine, that's really what a Facebook ad is, which is why it converts lower, because you're interrupting people. It's called interruption advertising. Still a very large pool of people, 1.2 billion users. And the reason Google it works so well is because it's like the classified section. If you go in the classified section hunting for information, there's a motivation behind it, and it's specified. So, to that end, you think of it that way, old school.
No, you're exactly right. So, and I think Facebook understands that, and they're trying ways to get around it. Like, they've launched this Facebook Canvas, which is basically a way to create fancy ads that show up really fast and effectively on cell phones. It's a new thing. Who knows? It's promising, but it's unproven.
Pursue the truth and see if it works.
Yeah.
So you've got a few little tips for folks here.
Well, that's it. So, this is all bad news. Let's focus on some, given this, then what kind of stuff, right?
Sure. So here's our landing page we have, and what people really don't understand, folks, is how much effort has gone into split testing all these little nuances, which creates a tremendous lift in the conversion rate, what's called conversion rate optimization of your landing page, which translates into turning traffic, Shane, into leads.
That's exactly it.
So Shane, all these numbers, Shane, they're basically representative of split testing we've done to improve conversion rates.
Well, that's exactly right. So I've identified, I was going to have you guess, but you've already seen these slides. How many innovations, or like this is a little benign little, it's attractive looking, pretty simple layout, doesn't have all these fancy dancing hamster kind of things on it. But this simple page, there's actually more, but there's 13 elements on it that have been split tested and scrubbed and reworked in order to incrementally improve the conversion of the traffic to a lead on it. So
rather than spending advertising money to get more traffic, what you're saying is it's better if we can improve, take this landing page from 5% to 7%, that's like a 40% improvement, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And given the costs, we can't control Google. No one's going to control them, right? And there is no clear alternative to that. And so that's a constraint that's an immovable object. Like, that's a boulder in the highway.
Yeah.
So what we can do to mitigate it is do a better job of converting the visitors the clicks we're already buying, and you do that through copy and split testing and innovation. That's one way to do it, and we've got to kind of test everything ethos here, including on mobile. Mobile and on tablets. You've got responsive designs and, lots of little things that get tested to incrementally improve that. So that's certainly an avenue of opportunity. And I think in the career education sector in particular, there's not enough focus on this.
So really it's conversion rate optimization, whether it's landing pages on website or dedicated campaigns or driving to mobile or your website, or even now it's looking like conversion rate optimization with these Facebook Canvas pages, and even conversion rate optimization with these big My Business pages on Google. Therein sits the opportunity, along with things like our virtual advisor, which is scrubbing lead qualification software. Admissions people can't blame marketers, and marketers can no longer blame admissions people. It has to be a three-legged race together. It has to be a dance where nobody can leave the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So, sorry, Shane, go ahead.
Oh no! So number one, conversion optimization. Number two, you need someone capable running this thing. Like, you need an expert at the helm managing your AdWords, and that's somewhat self-serving. Us, somebody else, but you need someone to do it because it's now more so than ever. It's a turf war, and you're going to have a much tighter management of your bidding. So much more active, really on a daily basis of bidding on different things. You're going to have to pick your competitive spots, the keywords that you're willing to really battle for, the ones that you're willing to give up. And that's just life. And so, and really someone who can decipher the BS that comes out of the Google reps, right? Because you can't, they're just not trustworthy because they have an agenda. And the thing I've noticed, and I've been duped on these calls, right? You get Google; they hire really, really smart people, right? And so they get on the phone and they seem really credible, and what they say makes perfect sense, and it's all very thought through, and they're compelling, intelligent people. But when you do the analysis objectively, it's almost always advice that's going to cost you more money.
Sure, it's an upsell.
Well, it's an upsell by the world's greatest upsell company.
And you can't blame them because they're listed on the stock exchange and they have a responsibility to their shareholders.
Well, sure, absolutely. That's the fundamentals of capitalism. But you know what? You don't have to buy it either.
Sure. Now, Google My Business. You touched on this earlier, so we can skim this. Perhaps is getting getting it set up correctly. It's just an hour of effort, really, to get it buttoned down properly, hey?
It is, and we've got some resources that we're going to give away at the end, but it's really important to get this right. So, okay. And it's a bit of a boondoggle to figure it out, but you got to do it, because it really represents a massive opportunity right now.
Now, we've talked about, touched on with my crass analogy, branding through reviews.
Yeah. So, I think more so than 2 months ago, reviews are a bigger part of this, and really they're a subset of your branding, right? And so the things people say about you have a greater influence on your competitiveness to even be shown, and the likelihood you'll get a click. And really, as a way to leverage this My Business stuff, you need those really good reviews. So what we suggest is one tactic, like, how do you get them is the real question. You just ask for them. And so we've given a little example of an email you could send to alumni or students, but you need to build some systems and use some of your creativity and innovation here to get more of them.
I spoke earlier of having a smartphone testimonial contest where people can self-film about why they love your school, and then send those in, and then they go up on YouTube. That would be a kind of a basic video version of this. What's interesting to me is that studies show that 7 to 8 times as many people will read and trust a review than they will an ad.
Yes.
So,
well, it makes sense, and that's been true since the beginning of time. Is testimonials. A review is just a testimonial with a different name, right? And with the visual device, the little star device is a visual device we all understand. But what other people say about you is really your reputation, right? That's where and it's branding. That's really what it is. And so the more people saying awesome things about you, the better your life gets.
Yeah, folks, we have a recent blog post on our website called Reputation is 3/4 of Everything. You might want to jump on the blog and check that article out. It can expand on this topic a bit. Mm-hmm. Now, social, so many social media people are just slinging crap, Shane, and you roll your eyes, but if done correctly, it can enhance the quality of your direct response marketing.
Well, you can, and I don't know how many conversations you and I have had about this over the years, and just trying to piece it together and figure out what is legitimately adding value and what's just, a kind of an emperor has no clothes lip service.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reality of it is that kind of social SEO ties everything together, right? And because the social media engagement and the SEO are interrelated, and really it's 70% of it at this point. So the days of the oh, sorry, go ahead.
What's interesting about that is, as little as about a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was 80% technical and 20% copywriting, and now that Google has squeezed all of that, the technical people gaming their system out. It's inverted, and it's like 20% technical now and 80% copywriting.
Well, that's it. So the meta tags and the tagging and doing all the technical stuff on your website and site speed and all these things that we do for clients to make sure that they're putting the best foot forward, it's not enough by itself. And so, because Google judges you on your content, right, and how they choose to display your Google My Business listing, for example, is influenced by Google content that you've tied to your Google Plus account, for example. So if you're posting if you have a blog and you post that to your Google Plus, or you share it in your Google Plus, it's going to influence how you rank for your Google My Business listing. Like, the only reason anybody uses Google Plus is because Google's forcing you to use it, because they use it as a criteria in their search rankings, both organically and in now my Google My Business.
So really, Shane, Google My Business is really like a little mini-me with a search engine inside the search engine, where people are competing, except instead of a Dutch auction, it's the weight of reviews and testimonials. It seems like that.
Well, that and original content. So the blogging or student blogs, which hardly anybody does, but it's a really good idea. All those things are influencers.
Huh.
Like, let's use this example. So your reputation in your social circle, right?
Right.
Can you isolate it down to one thing?
No, that's because I'm a complex personality.
You're a complex personality, and we're judged in a complex way, right?
Correct.
Now, and so it takes a lot of different things to create a reputation in our personal worlds, like in real life. There's a lot of things that make up our personal reputation. So your personal reputation, my personal reputation, is a result of a number of decisions we've made. Now, and it takes time to build a good one, right? And it's certainly a thing worth protecting, or same with a company. Now, you can screw it up, right?
Oh, yeah,
easily,
very quickly.
One bad choice that gets out, and that can pretty much undo years and years and years of good choices.
Right, or if you've kept a cap on your lazy, crummy business offering, and the couple people jump out and start criticizing, creates a bandwagon effect. And if there's a high propensity of negative reviews about your school, it's like pushing a big weight up a hill. It's like, and it adversely will affect your conversion rates.
Yes,
because you have to prove to them that there's 6 or 7 or 8 negative testimonials. It's no big deal. But of course, it is a big deal. It's largely true. So, final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. Okay, so Google is a monetization machine, and you are who they want to monetize. And don't ever forget it.
So you feel loved by Google.
Yeah, so when they phone and, hey, want to give you some service, it's BS. They want to monetize you. That is their only objective. Implement testing systems. The term is conversion rate optimization. If you don't know what that term means, research it or call us. We'll tell you all about it. We do a ton of that, and it's a huge focus of our business for years. You need someone legit managing your AdWords campaign.
So how does one do that? How do you go and determine if somebody's, if as a school owner or leader, you understand how to run a school, but you don't have legitimate chops to go and see if this AdWords professed guru is full of junk or if they're legitimate. How does one?
I think there's two numbers that they should quote to you. In a discussion, cost per lead and conversion rate, click to lead conversion rate. So if you have a vendor you're considering or a supplier, and they're talking about page views and cost per clicks and a bunch of around the edges stuff, they're probably full of crap.
Oh, there's one more thing.
Yeah.
In our company, we guarantee our business, and people can adjust an invoice to whatever they deem to be fair, no matter what, every single month. And ask your vendor if they're willing to guarantee their work.
Yeah, great idea.
And if they run away, you run away. So that would be a big one. Everybody has to guarantee their work.
Yeah.
So Google My Business is an opportunity, and it really helps in part to drive leads, but it's also a brand builder as well. Hey.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then we've been talking a lot about reviews, Shane.
Yeah, it's a key subset of branding, and you figure it out. It's it's easy to say, it's harder to do, but you have to figure it out. You don't have a choice.
So if branding is the garden, then reviews are the dirt, good quality earth to grow in your garden.
That's a beautiful analogy.
It is beautiful. Facebook is promising, but who really knows?
Well, that's the thing with Facebook is, they're working hard to create legitimate competition to Google, but you nailed it with the challenge they have, right? They're the forward section of the newspaper that has the display ads. Google is the back classified section of the newspaper where you're actually going to look for something. And that's just how it is, and they can't really change that. So
the conversion rates on the front are about a third of what they are in the classified section.
Well, that's it. The smart money was always spent on classified ads over display ads.
Okay. And then the last piece, number 8 here, Shane.
Yeah, so there's a need for fresh content, social media engagement, all that. It factors in. It's part of the deal. And despite the organic listings showing up lower, which is kind of a counter-argument to that, you need it in order to create relevance for the Google My Business, really to help create an environment of success for those reviews and people actually engaging with you. All that stuff matters now.
So 75% of the buying cycle is now done before an admissions rep will even see somebody.
Yes.
And this kind of does that work. It straddles marketing and admissions.
Yeah.
Now, I think we're done, and I think what we decided to do was just give people a bunch of free stuff.
Well, we did. This is more of a bad news talk than a good news talk, and it's depressing, and I feel bad for doing it.
As do I.
Yes, as do you. We're your friends here, unlike Google. So we've decided we've got a whole ton of stuff to give away to anyone who wants it, or on this call. So, Greg, do you want to walk through the what we got here, or you want me to?
I'll walk through it, Shane. So we have a nice little free ebook using Google My Business. It's just a little walk-through ebook that'll help you. We have an AdWords best practice review, so we can go through and do a really accurate forensic on what you're presently doing with your Google AdWords and show you some ways to at least trim costs, so then you can take those savings and reinvest them or put them into your balance sheet. And 1 month free, we have a new offering called Social Deep. And so what that means is if you're going to do social media, you've got to go deep with it and really button down all the little pieces and button them down properly in order for social media to work properly in conjunction with direct response. Otherwise, it's like having a one or two pinholes in a balloon, and it just is counterintuitive. So we're going to give this is worth a lot. We're going to give the first 5 people who come in we have a limited inventory that we can do, 1 month for free, no strings attached, to take us on with this program. And we'll get busy with you and get our hands dirty, and we'll ramp things up for you. And our thinking, being transparent in offering this, is that you'll get so excited about the work we do that a percentage of you will want to keep going. So that's the transparency around that. So now the way you can access this is you can phone Jody at the number there below, or you can text message, and you might want to get a pen, and the text is 250-888-7111. 250-888-7111. The first 5 folks will get that. Oh, there's one more thing, Shane. Lee, you are going to give everybody on the call a complimentary subscription to Career College Central. That's a very generous gift.
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. It would be published 6 times a year, so we'll be looking out for that one coming soon.
So what you can do is we'll put everybody in contact with Lee, and you can opt in or out as to whether you want to have a Career College Central sent electronically or a print version, or if you're not interested. But the information is excellent. It's thick with lots of really interesting, not only thoughts around school management, but political stuff, political views, trends. It's highly recommended read.
This podcast is brought to you by Enrollment Resources, Innovations in Enrollment Management. Learn more at enrollmentresources.com.